Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. So I thought this would be great to share with you guys. I actually the information on my blog, and I missed out on a couple of things that I didn't share. I thought it would be nice to share with you guys some tips, and I'll try to keep this brief on refinancing your home. I just refinanced my home a couple of weeks ago. I just received my first statement in the mail for my mortgage, so I'm super excited, and I just wanted to share with you guys a few tips to help you on the way. If you have any questions that I'm not covering, please leave them in the comment section, but let's go. My first tip is to shop around with different mortgage companies. I believe you have 45 days. That's what my mortgage company told me. I've heard that you have 14 days. So I would highly suggest once you start the process that day, just start calling mortgage companies. I know a lot of people have suggested, I can't think of a name, I'm going to put it going across, the company that a lot of people have been using. For some reason I'm having like a brain fart. One of my tips is once you, I don't know how they find your information, but once you do qualify or you start the process, banks will start calling you. Now it's up to you to do your due diligence to make sure that these banks are legit. And another tip that I have for you is to make sure that when you are getting quoted, everything is pretty much copy and paste, because I guess with some just of the rates you have to use points. Like, it's a lot of variables. Make sure that if you got the bank that you're really looking forward to going with, or you're aiming to go with that bank, make sure the quote that you get, it's exactly what they're saying. If they're saying the quote, the competitor is saying the quote is better, make sure it's, because I don't want you to miss out on something in like at closing or once you sign the documentations and you're kind of locked in. I want to make sure that you, just because something looks better doesn't necessarily means it is better. Like, make sure all of the terms are exactly the same if you are thinking about going with a different bank. If it says, you know, do you have to use points? So this one is saying it's 2.99, and then, or it's saying it's 2.75, and then another one is saying it's 2.25. And then you're like, you know what, I want to go with this bank because it's different, it's a better rate. But then on the opposite side, you have to use points. There's just a lot of different terms that you may have to go with. So make sure that it makes sense. Another tip is when your bank reaches out, once you decided you found the bank that you're going to move forward with, make sure you have all of the documentation needed. Now, you are most likely going to need your W-2s. You're going to need a most recent pay stub. You're going to probably need proof of your income. So, or even if you like receive child support, or if you have a business, you're going to need some supporting documentation. So just make sure, if you are thinking about it, just make sure that you have that information available and accessible, because once you get the process started, I literally started in January, I closed in February, and it was like literally I got a call like, hey, you're closing, you can close as early as next week, or you can push it to the end of the month. And I was like, ooh, like I wasn't even expecting it. It just like literally happened like that. Make sure that you have the information available. Your process can start and finish as soon as possible. Another tip is ask questions. No question is a dumb question. This is like your mortgage is on the line. If you have a question about anything, ask a question. Ask questions. That's what they're there for. Ask if you don't understand anything. Google is your best friend, and if it still doesn't clarify, that's what the bank is there for. I had a ton of questions. I had a bad experience with my first mortgage, so I had a ton of questions, and it was like my guard was up. I'm like, listen, I was like, literally, I would get the emails and like, you need to sign, because a lot of times things will happen so fast, and you will get the documentations that you need to sign virtually or e-sign. For me, I will like literally look through it and read it and stuff like that. So just make sure you're reading everything, because it's so important. Another tip is ask them to waive whatever fees, appraisal, whatever fees. Ask them. All they can do is say no. Ask them to waive. You know, are there, and that should be one of your first questions. Can you waive any fees? Or even if they can match. So another tip is you may want to stay with your bank, but you may find another bank that may be able to provide you with a better rate. This is when knowing exactly, having everything like a mirror, like, hey, they're saying the same terms as you, but the rate is better, but you may want to stay with your bank because, or this bank that you like, because you just feel more comfortable. Ask them, hey, can you match this rate? All they can do is say no. And most likely they're going to ask you probably for a copy of the terms. And I don't want them to be like, hey, well, listen, did you read this section? Because ours actually look better than theirs, just FYI. So that's why I'm telling you to read the stuff and make sure the terms are like mirror, because you want to make sure that everything is pretty much the same. The only thing that should be different, of course, is like the rate and like the balance and all the other jazz. Reach out, and I probably should have said this first. Reach out and ask your community. A lot of people are refinancing now. This is the best time to just say, hey, thinking about refinancing, suggestions on banks. Ask your community, ask your family. If you're a part of Facebook groups, if you are on social media, like ask your community, hey, do you know of a bank? You have any suggestions? And a lot of times, well, because once it's pulled, because it's the same, I guess, pull or hard pull on your credit, that's why it does not interfere or affect your credit score initially after that first pull. So it doesn't affect it after you keep on getting it pulled, but you should have, based on, you should be, calling around, figuring out. Some of them you can do online to get pre-qualified, but again, just do your due diligence and make sure everything is what it's supposed to be. And this is another thing that I probably should have said before you do anything. Make sure you know where your credit stands, because your credit definitely impacts what your score or what your interest rate will be. Make sure you know exactly what your credit is looking like. You know what's on there. You know your debt to income ratio, because a lot of times the banks, they'll ask you, hey, do you know what your credit score is right now? I know that's what my bank asked me, just to give me an idea before they actually put my credit, because this is something that I've been wanting to do forever and I just never made it happen. For various reasons. But okay, so I believe that's it. If I could think of anything else, or if you have any additional questions, please leave them in the comment section. Guys, thank you so much for checking out this video, and I look forward to chatting with you in the next one.